Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bones and Stones. Today, I think we have a very exciting talk lined up. We are speaking to Dr. Dipuo Kgotleng, who is currently the director of the Paleo Research Institute at the University of Johannesburg. Now, myself and Matt Lauder both work at this institute. It is a really exciting venture that UJ has invested in quite recently. I think we are coming up on the year mark quite soon for being open, and it's a new institute that is focused on paleo research, obviously. And I think we have a very sort of vibrant and diverse team that we're trying to put together. And today we wanted to just discuss some topics that are sort of near and dear to Dipuo's heart. Dipuo, I'm going to hand it over to you in a second. We were just sort of quickly and briefly discussing, I think, a very relevant and interesting topic for students, which is about how do you define an academic? And more importantly, do you need to pursue a PhD to have a career that surrounds the sort of university life in archaeology, paleoanthropology, and paleosciences in general? What is the real value of doing a PhD? And is that the end-all be-all of the academic sort of pursuit? So Dipuo, any of your thoughts on these would be very welcomed.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for having me this morning. I think one of the most important questions that I always get from students when they want to pursue postgraduate studies, either in archaeology or in paleoanthropology, we always want to know about the job prospects. Everybody wants to know, am I going to get a job after this? I mean, the kind of investment that we put into doing a postgraduate degree, whether it's your honors, your masters, even if it's not self-funded. I mean, the kind of time, the emotions that you go through to get to the other side of a postgraduate degree, there's a lot of investment that you put into it. So most of the time I get the question, will I get a job in this program? And because our field is a very highly niche, specialized area, I mean, it's not like a general social sciences, humanities, or a general science degree. Our science, our paleo science, our archaeology, our paleoanthropology is very specialized. So my advice always to students, especially once you are considering doing an honors degree, is that think about what you want to be post that degree. Do you want to be a full-time academic working in universities? Do you want to be a lecturer? Do you want to be a researcher? That is the most important thing that is going to guide you on whether you should do your master's or whether you should complete your PhD. And also, I always advise students, as researchers, as academics, as supervisors, we always encourage students to do their honors, to do their master's, to do their PhD without having any breaks, just for it to be a continuous study. Go to your postdoc and do another postdoc and another postdoc, and people just keep on studying and studying and studying. But what a student or somebody who wants to pursue a postgraduate degree has to think, what is it that I want to do with it? If you want to become a researcher, I would highly recommend that if that's all you want to, that's what you are interested in. Some people are just not interested in corporate at all. Corporate is not for everyone. Be it public service, be it private service, it's not for everyone. If your interest is specifically on becoming a researcher, then go ahead. Go through the linear route to your honors, to your master's, to your PhD. And by the way, this is just my assessment. This is just my perception. This is not researched. This is not something that has been tried and tested. That is just my perception that and my advice that I'm providing here. But then by all means, if your only interest is research and the academic world as defined purely by research, then by all means, do your honors, do your master's, do your PhD, and do your postdoc, do your second postdoc if you can. But in the real world, we all know at some point we have responsibilities. I mean, by the time you finish your PhD, by the time you finish your master's degree, you probably have responsibilities. Some of them are financial. Some of them are responsibilities that require you to be in one place for a long-term period. You can't constantly be moving around with a postdoc all over the world, different parts of the world. So we have to be realistic about that too. That's another challenge that people face. So if you want to become a researcher, pure research or pure lectureship, that is what your interest is in, then by all means. However, if like some of us, when I was doing my honors and as I was doing my master's, I felt like this is not the kind of world I wanted to be in. I wanted to explore. the prospect of being out there and exploring and getting to know things that are just beyond the confines of a university, that was very attractive for me. And there might have been some other internal issues, but also just being out there and doing something very different from what I had known my adult life since I started at Wits, that was very, very attractive to me. Oh, and I really didn't think that I was going to have a career in academia at all. So that's why I left. Immediately after I finished my master's, I was working on my PhD proposal. I decided that I want to try something that is out there. I want to see what the world has to offer, what the working world. And for me, fortunately, and I know I don't speak for the majority of South Africans, I didn't have financial pressures that an average Black South African like myself would have. Not just an average Black South African, I mean, a lot of people from other demographics also get to have pressures being an adult. You have to be self-sustaining. Fortunately for me, I didn't have those kinds of pressures, but it was just the attraction and just wanting to move away from the environment. So if for people who want to try the world out there, and I would really recommend, once you finish, be it your master's, with the master's degree, you're already specialized. You already understand some aspects of research. You are a professional in our field. But with a master's degree, you are somewhat of a professional. You're not a full specialist, but you are somewhat of a professional in the field. ASAPA recognizes a master's degree as a specialized degree. So I would recommend that if you want to go out there and try it, post your master's degree and see if that's the kind of world that you want to be involved in. It's totally different from what you have in academia, pure research. What you learn there is quite different from what you're learning. Some of the basic skills are similar, but it's quite different. So I would advise people that do a PhD if your career wants to be purely in academia. Do the linear track. A lot of people have done it. I would still do the things the same way that I did before. I would not just go straight into a PhD track and postdoc. I'm glad actually I went the route that I did. Post the masters, got out there, seen what the world has to offer, see what public admin, because most of my work was in public administration. I've worked with different government institutions and departments, and I've worked with a lot of private sectors. And I really appreciate the skills that I gained from that. So please, by all means, if pure academia, that's all you're interested in, have no interest in what's going on in other sectors, by all means. However, if you have an interest and you don't necessarily want to be only a researcher, it's always useful to gain a skill beyond just the confines of a university.
Dipuo, could I maybe ask a question? Obviously, thanks very much. That was very interesting. It's, you know, your route kind of through archaeology is a very interesting one, as Matt alluded to at the beginning. Just to maybe get back to, you know, talking about skill sets, and this is something that we always chat to students about as well, irrespective of the path they're going to choose in archaeology or whether they want to get involved in the corporate world. If they do go the postgrad route, a lot of what we try and teach them from a lecturing perspective is that transferable skills development. Yes. How important do you think that was when you were doing your master's and your PhD, and what impact do you think that has subsequently had on your professional career since then?
You know, I just want to be honest. A lot of what I learned in academia, I was not able to use out there in a public administration space. I'm just going to be honest. A few things that I learned that I felt like were applicable, but I think it's about how we design our courses, especially at postgraduate. Even when you're getting to a level like a third year, we need to start designing courses with skills that are transferable. I mean, I did my master's and PhD on paleoanthropology, on taphonomy and taxonomy, and trying to identify fauna. To be honest, I did not use those skills at all. At all. My first day in an office, for me, I was like in the wilderness. I didn't even know how to answer a telephone. I didn't know how to professionally answer a telephone. And then Google was not that common. I couldn't just Google how do you answer a telephone in a professional setting. And I think we need to start, I mean, the way of the future is we need to have skills that are applicable in various sectors. There's the kinds of skills that we give the students. In as much as we are teaching them paleoanthropology or teaching them archaeology, how that will learning how to identify a bone help a person who's supposed to work at Sarah, for example. Let's give Sarah as an example. If I know how to identify a bone, I know how to identify different categories above it, from a primate, from a hominin. Those skills I did not use at all. I want to be honest. One of the courses that I did at honors was a heritage management course. I want to be honest, that course helped me a lot in my career as an administrator for paleosciences, because mainly I was doing public policy for paleosciences. I was able to use those skills. I still have my file that I used in 2004. I still have it even up to today. I'm still using it recently, because it's the skills that I got from that, from learning about how to develop legislation, how to identify a heritage site, how to maneuver in a heritage site, how to make how to nominate a site for a heritage grading. Those are the kinds of skills that I got only from that course. And I have to say that that is the course whose skills I was able to use post my degree as a student. And I think how we craft our courses, it's just that in academia, in as much as we try to incorporate what is out there, our courses are designed to be mainly academia focused. And I think that is one thing that we fall short of. Even I realized, even when we were doing our own course administration for this year, for our postgrads, I realized that we are still falling short of trying to make sure that these skills are transferable. In as much as we can teach skills like GIS, in as much as we can teach skills like X-ray scanning, photogrammetry, some of those skills are not going to be usable post. If a student doesn't necessarily want to do the academic track, they are not going to be able to use those skills. They can use some of the skills, but I feel like the bulk of the work, the only thing that I learned was critical analysis. I mean, generally that's what you learn once with your degree or post your degree. You learn critical analysis. You learn some of the basic principles, but you don't get to be taught how to conduct yourself, what to do when you get to a working environment, and the kinds of skills I had to learn. I felt like I had to learn everything from scratch, to be honest. Most of the things that I learned were things that I had to learn from scratch. You don't learn, I mean, public engagement. Those are the skills that we should be transferring, particularly at honors level. I mean, who are the best people to speak about the science, except for the scientists? We should be teaching those kinds of skills. Public engagement, science communication, those are the skills that they should actually become an integral part. They shouldn't be separate courses that students have to take. They should be an integral part of our courses at postgraduate level. Those are the skills that I feel like would have helped me become a better public officer when I was then. But I think going forward, we need to start being innovative about the kinds of skills that we give to our students, not just teaching them how to be good archaeologists in the field. Yes, that is important, but we have to be cognizant of not everyone wants to be an academic, not everybody wants to be a lecturer or a researcher in the field.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, because we obviously have a responsibility to train people to be good archaeologists. You know, they've enrolled in our course. But like you say, and I think it's a problem that people have raised a number of times, is that at university, we don't train them just to be an archaeologist. We train them generally to be academics, not to be CRM specialists.
To be academic, especially.
Tenders, not how to, write for online journals for the public.
Exactly.
So this is this balancing act that I think it's our responsibility in a way to rethink some of these approaches and say, well, we want you to be great academics, but we also want you to be great CRM practitioners. We want you to be great heritage managers, etc., etc.
Yes.
So at what point do we draw the line and say, how far away from academic archaeology do we start teaching, and how do we split our courses up? Where does our responsibility lie in terms of that?
I think some of the things lie with with the prescripts that we get from our universities. When I was designing the heritage management course, I had an interaction with a person who used to be head of department in a Cameroonian university. He used to work in Cameroon. And how they would design their heritage management course was with different streams. And I actually learned a lot from looking at the course outline that they had developed. They had developed a course, so how you choose your course was dependent on what you want to get, the kind of skills you want to get at the end of the course, and where you want to take your career. So they had a course for industry. They had a course designed for academia. They had a course designed, I don't remember the different courses, but they had courses designed specifically for collections management, for curators. So their courses were not all-encompassing, because it's difficult. With an all-encompassing course, it's difficult to transfer the kinds of skills that you want to. So their courses were streamlined based on what you want to do. And some of the courses were highly practical. industry-based, highly practical. What you do is if you want to be a heritage manager, you get placed in SARA and you start seeing how SARA does the work. You want to be a heritage manager. SARA is a heritage management institution in the country. That's where you go, or you go to a provincial heritage. If you want to become an academic, then you work within an academic setting. And so that is how they had designed. Just a pity how our university structure these courses. It doesn't allow that kind of flexibility. And somehow it's a long process. You have to get, your course has to be accredited. It has to be approved by the Department of Higher Education. And I'm sure some universities are not even interested in going through those routes. But I think as we are ourselves being young academics, being young researchers, we have to start being creative. And even if it means we start working on the long term of how we design these courses, it is not going to help a student to learn how to identify a stone tool if they are never going to become an archaeologist. If they are not interested, it doesn't help for them being able to separate a core from a flake. If at the end of the day, all they want to do is sit in an office and work on their laptop in some corporate, so we need to start streamlining our courses to make sure that the kind of resources we give, the kind of knowledge we give is going to assist them, post their degrees.
I think I know what you're saying, and I just have a slight problem with that approach, because I think what we lack at university at a very foundational level is good career advice. Universities are trying very hard, because if you want to sit in an office and be corporate, you shouldn't be registered to do archaeology in the first place. And I think that's something we miss a bit of engagement with our younger students to say, what do you really want to achieve? Where do you want to go? And how can we help you? Whether it's to join us or to assist you into getting into another department or another course that will benefit you.
I actually don't see anything wrong if somebody has an interest in archaeology and they want to have maybe an honors or a master's in archaeology, even though they want to sit in an office. You can always marry the two. They're not discrete. These fields are not necessarily as discrete and separate from each other. I could have an interest in archaeology, but I still want to use those skills to sit in an office in SARA or in the NRF. Those skills can still be, you can still marry the two. Usually, especially with academics, we view our fields as so discrete and separated from the broader context of the world. You can still do classical art but still want to sit only in an office. You can be an administrator of classical art. You can go to work for the NRA. You can go work for organizations that fund. We don't have to look at our fields as discrete and only about what we are doing. Our skills should be transferable. We should be able to use our skills to make the world a better place. And I think each and every skill that you get, irrespective of what it is, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a linear progression of if you're doing archaeology, you can only be an archaeologist. Not necessarily. Some people just have an interest in the field. And people just love it. You grow up watching all these kinds of movies about these archaeologists and as bad as they are, but that's what attracts the students. So not necessarily that they have an interest in being out there in the field, but they just are interested in the course. I would still go back and do archaeology and paleontology again, even though I would not have an interest of always being in the field like you guys. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I shouldn't do archaeology. I still have an interest. I still want to learn about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean. But that doesn't mean I want to sit in Sorkrans 24/7 every day for 365 days a week doing field work. So I think we should also try to move away from that thinking that do archaeology only if you want to be an archaeologist. Do archaeology if you're interested in, and if you can work in various sectors. And I think also another thing with academics that I realized is that we don't understand how broad our field can be applicable in the real world. We only think of our fields, especially specialized fields like archaeology or paleontology, even other sciences or other specialties in humanities. People think of them only applicable within their field. But some of the things that we are doing are applicable in broader context of how, private sectors, various private sectors, various public sectors can use our skills. So I actually disagree with you that if a student doesn't want to be an archaeologist, they shouldn't do archaeology. I actually disagree with you on that one.
Yeah. Dipuo, this is a highly fascinating conversation, and thank you very much for your responses. I think what you're touching upon here is that when archaeology was really conceptualized as a field, it did speak to a very narrow approach, which is field archaeologists. We report on the past, interpretations, things like this. In the modern day world, I think a lot of the way archaeology feeds into broader contexts it's forcing us to rethink what is an archaeologist, what is an academic, as the conversation started off, and we need to appeal to the fact that we have a lot of input into different types of industries. As you say, something like SARA and the management of heritage sites has to be very informed by archaeology, and that a blended approach is probably quite warranted in trying to obviously connect our field to different types of job opportunities as well, which is critical for a lot of young academics, is to know that there is a viable job path that may not necessarily lead down the very sort of narrow academic approach.
Yes.
Secondly, I agree with you that no one should be working at Swartkrans 365 days a year doing field work, particularly myself. Please, anybody listening to this, heed that advice very closely. But thank you very, very much. This was highly fascinating. I think we're sort of at the end of our discussion here. Thanks for joining us. And I think if you'd be happy to come back on at some point in time, we could maybe branch this discussion out and carry on.
So maybe we can do this again.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dipuo. This was really interesting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for hosting me.